was the worst friend? Panda for sleeping with Effy's boyfriend, or Effy for drugging Panda's mom? I know these are wild statements, but if you're familiar with the late 2000s British teen show Skins, none of these should surprise you. Besides its many questionable plotlines and reckless nature of its story, Skins has gained a cult fanbase that transcends generations. Its plotlines are a blend of the almost carefree essence of adolescence with the harsh reminders and impotence that come with not fully understanding the world around you, all encapsulated in a raw, earnest, and emotional delivery that blends dark humor with tender moments. To this day, we're still discussing the devastating death of Chris, the ridiculousness of Freddy's death, which generation was better, how Gel deserved so much better, how cool Effy's style is still today, and among the many questions that assault fans of the show, we still wonder whether Panda and Effy's friendship ever made sense, especially since they were so different to begin with. Panda being innocent, open-hearted, and naive, while Effy is cunning, distant, and perceptive. Today we'll talk about why they became friends in the first place, and whether that friendship was just a random occurrence that benefited one of them, or if it actually had a deeper purpose for both. After an accidental overdose at a party she was lured in by Josh, who wanted revenge on Tony, Effy was enrolled in a private school which was her parents' attempt to protect her from bad influences, though unsuccessfully. Already bored by the bland crowd at her new school, Effy had no success academically or socially, not because she couldn't, but because she didn't care enough to try. There she's forced by her art teacher to work with Panda in hopes of helping her adapt to her new environment.
Pandora, darling, don't do that. Why?
When they meet, Panda's childlike nature is desperate for Effy's approval, even though it seems Effy had already approved of her before Panda had to prove herself, but not exactly as a friend yet. If there's anything evident at the end of Gen 1 and at the beginning of Gen 2, is that Panda and Effy's relationship didn't start as a friendship, but as a power play and a sort of symbiotic relationship that benefited both of them, though not equally. While Panda benefited from Effy's quote-unquote coolness factor, Effy benefited from Panda's initially submissive nature.
Who do I hate, Eff? I'll let you know.
Effy is effortlessly cool, while Panda is clearly invisible and trying to be perceived by her crowd. This neediness leads Effy to see Panda as a weaker minion, someone who would do anything asked of her in exchange for the illusion of company. Effy undermines Panda because she believes Panda is oblivious and would accept any behavior directed at her, or so it seems. What Effy doesn't yet acknowledge is that Panda brings something into her life that she had longed for but didn't think she needed, something she's inadvertently and constantly trying to protect. Effy's protective nature is visible throughout the show in small but meaningful moments, and it becomes even more apparent once Panda enters her life. Though she may appear dominant and careless, she occasionally defends Panda against people who treat it poorly.
So that's funny looking. So are you.
Panda wouldn't be the last person Effy is protective of, even if that protectiveness is intertwined with dominance.
Oh my god, he is so tragic.
You look like a horse when you laugh down your nose like that.
At first, Panda isn't bothered by this dominance. She feels protected and included in an environment she would have no other way of accessing, surrounded by people she perceives as having amazing lives, which is a stark contrast to her sheltered life. She feels like one of the cool kids even without masking her own character to fit in. However, to everyone else it's clear that she doesn't truly belong and it's treated differently because of it. So when her boyfriend Thomas leaves and she throws a sleepover in the hope that Effy will show up for her as a friend and cheer her up, Panda is left disappointed and finally sees the friendship for what it really was.
It was a joke. It wasn't even me.
You're always fucking finna. It's always you. You do everything you like just because you're depressed because your mum's getting whacked at the pants. Well, bog off.
This is the exact moment when the image Panda and Effy have of each other fundamentally changes. Their first confrontation is the turning point that alters their friendship forever. And ironically, it's for the better. Panda is introduced in the show as a comedic side character who admires Effy and wants to be her friend at all cost. She is the shiny, bubbly counterpart to Effy's dark, stoic image, portrayed as an innocent, wide-eyed girl stepping into Effy's world. That's why it's both surprising and refreshing when she calls Effy out on her behavior. Not once, but twice, and with a good reason. The way she said this may have come across as harsh, but the call-out was necessary given how Effy and the others treated her at different points, especially at the beginning of Season 3. As mentioned before, Panda is singled out for being weird, childish, and unaware of the conventions of the world she's trying to enter. She has more hopeful and naive expectations about many things, including her friendship with Effy. Up until this point, Effy speaks to Pandora in a condescending, sarcastic way, constantly overrides her wishes, and minimizes her through subtle but snide comments.
Make a monkey.
Yes, Pandora. They've been making monkey.
Panda accepts all of it, until the moment she actually needs Effy to be a real friend. When her vulnerability is treated as a joke, Pandora lashes out in a way Effy doesn't expect, and it shocks her. Not only is Panda not as weak as Effy assumed, but Effy is also confronted with a very real pain she's been carrying herself. Effy, who up to this point has only been idolized and admired, watches her own facade crumble with every word Panda says. Panda throws back everything that is wrong with Effy's life at that moment. How selfish she is, how she hides her pain behind an Effy persona that pretends not to care about anything, and most importantly, how her family is falling apart right in front of her. No matter how much Effy tries to control, manipulate, and calculate her way around it, she can shield herself from how deeply this is affecting her emotionally. And what hurts Effy the most is that this confrontation comes from someone she underestimated, someone she assumed would always remain a follower, someone who not long ago had sworn loyalty and admiration to her. She let Pandora get too close, and that's why it hurts the most. Their second confrontation, after Panda sleeps with Cook and Effy sees them leaving her house, reaffirms the first conversation. Effy, upset and hurt by what she perceives as a betrayal, confronts Pandora. What starts as an argument about a guy turns into something much bigger, Panda demanding the respect she deserved from her friend. Despite how much Panda cares about Effy and how openly she shows it, she isn't receiving the same in return. Because Panda truly sees Effy, enough to understand what's behind the curtain of coolness she puts up. So much so that she becomes the first person to confront Effy about her feelings for Freddie.
He'll never belong to anyone.
Shut up.
That's why you don't really want him.
Shut up.
He's not the one you want,
Shut up.
What's interesting is that Effy, despite being as calculated and ruthless as she can be, chooses not to retaliate. She doesn't say anything back and simply absorbs it all and looks deeply hurt. It's also important to remember that Effy knows the dirty little secret Panda's mom is hiding from her, yet she chooses not to use it against her. Why? Because Effy cares about Panda. A lot. Effy has a pattern with the people she loves, with the exception of Tony.
You don't fool me, Effy Stonem.
She tends to be dismissive, secretive, and evasive towards those she loves and those she perceives as having the power to hurt her if they get too close. She does this with Panda, with Freddie, and even with her parents. It's her way of controlling the narrative of the relationship when she can't control her own feelings. The problem is that when that distance is removed, either by force, like after Tony's accident when she had to start talking again and take care of him and later her mother, or gradually, like with Freddie and Panda slowly wearing down her defenses, we see a different Effy emerge. One who loves fiercely and will do anything for the people she cares about. One who feels so deeply that it genuinely hurts. This is why in Effy's episode, discovering that Panda is still sleeping with Cook behind her back at first affects her more than having her own feelings exposed in front of everyone. Not because she wants Cook, but because she's heard that Panda didn't trust her enough to tell her.
Wait. It was one time, right? Your party. It was only once, right?
Effy is actively trying to be more present and a better friend to Pandora, only to realize that this time, Pandora is the one who mishandles the friendship. At the beginning of Season 4, it appears that everything from the previous season has been patched up. When Panda breaks up with Thomas, which by the way is a terrible storyline in a terrible season, we learn that Effy is staying at Panda's house supporting her through the breakup. Throughout this season, we don't see them spend as much time together, but we do see a more balanced and mutually supportive dynamic than in previous seasons. The bond is stronger, and whenever they do share scenes, there is a beautiful and genuine exchange between them. Much of this change is tied to Effy's time in a mental institution and her relationship with Freddie, which makes her more open and receptive, but also more vulnerable and chaotic as a result of her mental illness. Despite the time they spend apart and Panda's reduced prominence in Series 4, we can still see how Panda's softer, more colorful presence brings out a funnier and more playful side of Effy, one that clashes with her usual aloofness, and this is ultimately one of the main reasons they became friends in the first place.
That's it. Yeah.
Effy and Panda are two faces of the same coin. Despite how different they appear to be on the surface, they are connected by the same inner need. The need to be seen and loved for who they really are. And at least subconsciously, they sense each other as capable of satisfying that need within them. Panda is more open about her needs, while Effy hides hers behind an appearance of aloofness. And this is precisely what makes one of them stronger than the other. And believe it or not, the stronger one is Panda, because she's freer and allows herself to show her vulnerable and emotional side, and that is where her strength lies. Effy, on the other hand, pretends not to care, but deep down she's emotional and has a soft spot for the people she loves. A soft spot she's terrified of because she doesn't know how to manage it. This is what both Stonem siblings have in common. They long for connection, but the only way they believe they can attain it is through relationships where they are on top. Relationships in which they dominate others through lying, cheating, manipulation, and devaluation. This behavior helps explain both the relationships between Tony and Sid and that between Effy and Panda. In both cases, they can be dismissive of their friends while still showing moments of softness and appreciation, especially when the friendship is at risk and they are forced to show up as their emotional selves. This behavior isn't limited to their best friends either. It's also present in their relationship with their parents, their wider friend group, and their partners. Both Tony and Effy are controlling, conniving, yet deep down they feel a genuine appreciation for the people around them. In Tony's case, this realization was more contained and ruthless, surfacing once his friends turned their backs on him.
Because I'm more than that. I don't want to be a wanker.
With Effy, however, there was a constant struggle to even acknowledge her own feelings.
Why bother?
With what?
Caring about people.
It's particularly interesting how both Panda and Effy's families shape the way they seek connection and relationships. On one side, we have Panda's family, just her and her mom. Angela quietly tries to shelter Panda from the evils of sex, men, and debauchery, all while engaging in those same behaviors behind closed doors. Unaware of this side of her mother, Panda resorts to lying while longing for independence for the life of experiences she lives vicariously through Effy and her friend group. Panda's life has been overly cushioned and protected by a hypercritical mother who is deeply concerned with her daughter's chastity. A daughter she is, in effect, sheltering away from her own womanhood.
Pandora, I do hope you haven't been defying me on the subject of boys.
On the other side, we have Effy's family, a household dominated by Mr. Stonem, an intensely emotional and irate man who attempts to control everyone through his temper. And while his wife submits to him, both Stonem siblings find subtle ways to undermine his authority. Tony through mind games and quiet psychological defeat, and Effy by leading a double life and at times refuses to communicate with them altogether. Effy seemed to be having everything under control until her entire world eventually turns upside down. Her family is falling apart, her brother is no longer around, and she no longer has genuine friends to lean on. This is why her downfall is more visible and harsher than Tony's. There was no bus running over her, but there was an emotional equivalent crushing her heart.
I'm officially off the rails.
What Effy loves the most about Panda, though she would never admit it, is that Panda isn't embarrassed to care. Nowhere is this more evident than in the very first trick Panda performs to impress Effy on the day they met. The moment Effy allows Panda into her life is the moment she recognizes Panda's authenticity and realizes that, to a certain extent, she isn't a threat to her independence. This stands in contrast to someone like Katie, for example, who approached Effy insincerely and with personal gain in mind. Katie saw Effy as a rival to conquer and dominate, which is why she pursued Freddie despite knowing that Effy liked them.
I told you.
Hi, Effy.
In the end, Effy was right to keep her at a distance because just look how everything turned out for them. It's also interesting how Effy's condition and eventual mental illness have been glorified by both the public and her inner circle, because many people don't truly know Effy. They project fantasies onto her that don't align with reality, a reality only accessible to those who see her up close and understand her most intimate world sincerely, and that person is Panda. Panda became friends with Effy partly by chance and partly out of obligation. She was drawn in by Effy's elusiveness, but unlike everyone else who approached Effy to impress her or get something from her, Panda didn't pretend to be cool. She showed up as herself, and that genuineness pierced Effy's cool exterior and warmed her heart. Panda, in turn, saw Effy as a doorway into adulthood and rebellion, not merely as a way to improve her social standing. She saw Effy as access to something unknown and desperately wanted to experience life in her own terms. Having a new friend meant having a new life experience, whether that was with Effy or anyone else. Panda's childlike behavior and openness quickly branded her as a weirdo, someone who knew nothing and supposedly lacked social skills. But it's exactly this openness, this being okay with knowing nothing and wanting to explore everything, that pulls Effy in. At first, she assumed Panda will be easy to control because she seems naive. But pretty quickly, Effy realized there's something disarming about the way Panda moves through the world. Something soft, something genuine in her. Something Effy once had herself and can finally touch again through Panda. In a world where Effy has to wear armor and act like she doesn't care about anything, Panda's so-called naivete turns out to be anything but weakness. It has a quiet strength Effy didn't see coming, and it gives her space to explore parts of herself she's been forced to lock away for a long time. So, who was the worst friend between them? Honestly, they both were at different points. But it's important to remember that during series 3 and 4, they're young, and neither of them is hurting the other out of malice. Both Effy and Panda are acting from a place of lack. Most of the time, they either don't realize how they're failing each other, or they're simply too immature to know how to stop. At that time, Effy didn't know how to handle her own emotions, and Panda didn't know how to handle her hormones. And even though they end up in very different paths after series 4, Panda going to Harvard, and Effy working at a hedge fund and eventually going to jail, it's clear that their time together mattered. Effy grows to admire Panda's loyalty and openness, and for a brief moment she gets to experience her own tenderness through that friendship. Panda in turn becomes more self-possessed. She learns how to carry herself in more adult spaces, even with something as small and freeing as swearing. Something she would never dare to do before meeting Effy.
Come on, you nonky cunt!
Language!
Great, innit? I've been practicing.
Effy and Panda are the kind of friends you meet at crucial points in your life. They're deeply transformative, incredibly important for that specific era, but not always meant to last beyond it. Their friendship is the kind that gets you through hard times. The kind you don't expect, but later realize shaped you in a big way. It sits right on the bridge between innocence and maturity, which is why it's so valuable. It blends both in a way that helps you step into your own world. And that world can be hard to navigate if we never let people in who look different from what we expected. People who, without us realizing it at first, might already hold answers to questions we've been carrying for a long time. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye-bye!